Discuss is senior fellow for the Center for American Security at America First Policy Institute and author of The Iran House Tales of Revolution, Persecution, War, and Intrigue, Ken Timmerman. Welcome to the show, Ken.
Thanks for having me on, Stacey. It's a pleasure.
I'm glad to have you back, and especially on this. President Trump is now basically telegraphing to the Iranians that, especially their leadership, that they need to come to the table and negotiate over their denuclearization program. They were allowed to kind of run wild during the Biden administration, and now it's time for them to come back under good working order. What do you see happening next?
Well, first of all, it's very important that the president said this, that he said it explicitly and the way that he did. A reporter was trying to drag him into this notion that he would be essentially hoodwinked into war by the Israelis. And the president put that to rest. He said, no, no, no. If we have to go to war with Iran, if we have to go to strike Iran's nuclear facilities to take them off the table, we will do that not just willingly, but we will lead the effort. I think it was a very important message to say, to deliver. For 4 years under Biden, we had a president who did not have a military option vis-a-vis Iran, and he allowed the Iranians to run slipshod over us. So I think this is an important groundwork for these negotiations. But where they go from here, Stacey, is really anybody's question. There was a technical team that met last week. We are told that they were discussing sanctions removal. What they need to be discussing is how to get to zero enrichment, because that is the most important thing. The Iranians cannot be allowed to retain the capability of enriching uranium. Now, the problem, Steve Witkoff, remember, in his first meeting said, oh, that's not a problem. You can enrich to 3.67%, which is what you need if you want a civilian power program. He said, that's okay. We'll let you do that because we think it's fine for you to have civilian power. The problem is that it's like that dual-engine Tesla that President Trump bought and lets his staffers drive. He can tell them to drive it at 30 miles an hour. Once they get out on the Beltway, they're 0 to 90 in about 3 seconds. And that's what the Iranians will do with enrichment as well. If you can enrich to 3%, you can enrich to 93%. It's exactly the same technology. It's just how you have your foot on the gas.
All right, so let's talk about that a little bit further, because most Americans will hear that and say, well, we can't tell Iranians that they can't have nuclear power plants, but actually we can. I mean, I take the position that the United States and Israel are better leadership in every way. Like, the leadership of those two nations is better than having the Iranians with the mullahs in charge of whether or not they're enriching uranium or whether or not they're secretly trying to build a bomb. And Israeli intelligence tells us that whenever we don't have complete and utter oversight, that's exactly what they're doing. So can you tell me definitively the difference between this request that's been made for them to denuclearize? Like, are we talking about the complete dismantling of this program? Because the Israelis have killed their scientists, they've destroyed some of their infrastructure, but they're still working.
Yeah, yes, they are still working. And by the way, it's not just the United States and Israel that have the right to tell the Iranians they cannot enrich uranium. It is the entire world community that has signed up to the Treaty on Non-Proliferation of Nuclear Weapons, the NPT. The Iranian government has signed that. The NPT is a deal between the nuclear weapon states, Russia, China, the United States, the UK, and France, and all the other non-nuclear weapon states who want nuclear power. And the deal goes like this. You forever give up any program, any research, anything at all that would allow you to make nuclear weapons or to enrich uranium to weapons grade, in exchange for which we will give you access to civilian nuclear technology. But if you do not adhere to that part of the deal, you have zero rights to technology. So the Iranians have been in non-compliance with the NPT for years now, since at least 2003 when they were finally caught. And they have never reversed that. They've never come into compliance with their treaty obligations. They have zero right under this international treaty to nuclear weapons technology. And centrifuge enrichment is nuclear weapons technology.
Okay, so this is why we love having AFPI send your leadership here to talk to us, because that is such an important point to make when people are trying to argue with you over
Right.
your coffee at work or over lunch or at some other inopportune time. That it's not just the United States and Israel who agree on this; it's the entire world, and that it's safer. The entire world is safer if Iran doesn't have nuclear technology, and there's ways that they can actually get closer to their goals without it being nuclearized. In other words, the weaponry. We're so grateful for your time. And as always, greetings to everyone else there at AFPI from us here at Salem News. Thank you so much, Ken Timmerman, for coming on again. Good to see you, sir.
Thanks so much. Pleasure to be with you, Stacey.
All right. Thank you.